One of the most overlooked aspects of outdoor sports is purely the fact that weather can impact these games so heavily on any given day. Sometimes it can be rather minimal, such as playing baseball on a hot summer's day, where we can see the extremes such as playing football knee-deep in snow. Today, with Stark Raving Sports, I will go over some of the most extreme weather conditions in all of sports history and highlight some of my favorites. So, get comfortable, grab a snack, because we're going to dive deep into the history of wacky weather conditions in sports. I'll start us off talking about football weather games, and man oh man, could I sit here and talk for hours about the unique weather that football has seen over the years. Because to put it simply, there are so many good options to pick from. But I'll start with the famous 2013 matchup between the Detroit Lions and Philadelphia Eagles. This game is the absolute best case scenario for any 13-year-old kid. Growing up, you always wanted to go outside in the thick of winter and tackle your friends in the snow while you got to skip school and wait for Christmas to roll around the corner. So, turning on the TV to see the ideal scenario for kids around America be the exact setting for the Eagles and Lions game would be an absolutely surreal feeling. A huge snowstorm would hit the city of Philadelphia, and as the storm crept closer to the stadium for its 1 p.m. kickoff, the storm would only grow worse and worse to a point where the stadium crew was unprepared and unable to attack the storm that would then hit the stadium. The first half of this game left fans at home confused, as it was practically close to unwatchable through the thick powder that blasted all of Philadelphia. By halftime, the score was 8-0 with the Lions leading, and it was a rather boring first half. The Lions then extended that lead to 14-0 in the third quarter, and what seemed like a dreadful winter storm turned into a winter nightmare for the Philadelphia Eagles would quickly turn into one of Philadelphia's fondest memories. With 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third quarter, the Eagles will get the ball and score on all 5 of their remaining drives in this game. Of these 5 drives, all of them resulted in a touchdown in less than 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The most plays on a single drive would be 7, and the shortest field they worked with was 60 yards, which funnily enough was the longest drive for them. Shady McCoy was already a household name, but that name rose even higher with his 217 rushing yards on 29 carries along with 2 touchdowns. And in a way, it makes sense. Sometimes you need to rely on your best players, and sometimes when there's a blizzard in town, it is against your best interest to throw the ball. The Eagles would win this eventual snowball with a score of 34-20, and along with it came visuals that should never be forgotten. And at the top of that list for me is this play where Calvin Johnson arises from a tackle with a face full of snow. Let's move on to the next game on my list, and let's actually stick with the snow theme, but head to a place where snow really shouldn't belong, and that is in April at a baseball game. And I mean, sure, I guess it's happened, and when it does look really cool to look at. The game I want to highlight is on April 9th, 1996. The Kansas City Royals were in New York City to face the Yankees in the Yankee home opener. From the start to the finish of this game, it was impacted by a steady snowfall, making it already one of the more unique baseball snow games by default. Reports say this game was obviously cold and wet, but furthermore, it was windy from start to finish as well. Fans in attendance that day say they were shocked that the game was even able to be played through completion, but furthermore were surprised MLB allowed this game to be played at all. The game itself was a rather boring one with not too much action outside of the normal baseball game that you'd see in the dog days of summer. In this game, the Yankees never trailed the Kansas City Royals as they took the game 7-3 at the end of the day. From this wicked and dreary game did come a cool opportunity for fans in attendance, as Yankees owner George Steinbrenner allowed the fans to trade in their game tickets for a ticket to a future Yankees game as a thank you for coming, or as a sorry about the weather, and you can be the judge about that one. Quick side note before we leave baseball snow games behind, I'd like to point out that Mets once were snowed out of a game in Colorado in mid-May, as Colorado was hit by a snowstorm leaving 7 inches of snow on their field, forcing the MLB to cancel, but hey, at least we got some really cool visuals from that storm. Moving on, let's slide on over to the NHL and talk about the most unique single game experience on this list. You might be thinking, how could hockey have weather problems? They play indoors at ice rinks. Well, this unique event was known as NHL Outdoors at Lake Tahoe, and it was a series of 2 outdoor regular season games held on the weekend of February 20th to the 21st in 2021. Both of these games were played without fans at a rink on the 18th fairway of the Edgewood Tahoe Resort in State Line, Nevada, on the south shore of Lake Tahoe. The elevation of this rink was approximately 6,240 feet above sea level. However, just one of these 2 games have made my list for unforeseeable issues. But before I talk about the Lake Tahoe game, I will say yes, NHL has been played outdoors before, and it's actually a yearly event, and when it's done properly, it'll be played in an NFL or MLB stadium, and the venues look absolutely phenomenal. Rain or even snow have impacted these outdoor games before, and as per usual, they make for great visuals. But the backdrop of Lake Tahoe is maybe the greatest and most underrated in all of sports, and the issue that the NHL faced on February 20th in a game between the Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche is honestly amazing that they even got this full game in. So let me explain. Due to COVID in 2020, the normal Winter Classic games were canceled and the NHL looked for an outdoor venue with fans likely to not show up, so the commish focused on trying to find natural landscapes that could be used to house a series of games. The golf course was selected because the actual Lake Tahoe, well, it's unable to freeze over and therefore is not suitable for ice hockey play. The average high temperature in February 20th is about 44 degrees and the average low temperature is about 18 degrees. So the NHL had their breathtaking backdrop but knew the risk of possible temperature issues affecting this game, and as I said earlier, the unforeseeable issues was more so sarcasm because these issues became very apparent as the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche began play on February 20th at 12:12 p.m. local time, and play was suspended after the first period due to ice conditions caused by its exposure to heat and sunlight, effectively melting the ice and causing severe puddling on the playing surface. The game resumed eventually after not 1, 2, or even 3 hours, but 8 hours later at 9:02 p.m. And then add about 2 more hours to that, and then the game ended around 11 p.m., with Colorado winning 3-2. Effectively and technically, this game became one of the longest hockey games of all time, with obviously the technicality of the 8-hour delay. Chicago is called the Windy City for a reason, right? Well, of course it is, and on November 13th, 2005, the Bears hosted the San Francisco 49ers, and everything in the sky seemed normal except for the one thing humans really can't see, and that, of course, was the wind. This game featured wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour and a steady average of 27 mile per hour winds, which affected the game obviously from start to finish, serving up a sloppy product on the field. These two teams combined to complete just 9 passes for 95 yards on 27 total attempts. In fact, the 49ers completed just 1 pass on 13 total attempts for a grand total of 28 yards. Both of the best moments did not come off of throws or runs, but rather they came off of errant field goals that were struck down and thrown to the side by the wind that day.
A tough wind, and here it goes, and he hooks it. Does it have the distance? No. Comes up short. Came up 4 yards short. It's being returned by Nathan. Vasher is going. Vasher needs one more block, and he's got it. Nathan Vasher, touchdown Bears. Do you believe that?
This would be the only touchdown of that game, and at the time, that return would set an NFL record for the longest touchdown in NFL history. But my personal favorite clip or moment from this game came once again as his missed field goal was absolutely sent to a different area code by the wind, and the ball probably landed in the cheap seats once it stopped rolling. I mean, just look at this clip and try not to laugh.
No good. Man, and there it goes. He had no shot.
Quickly moving on to the 2012 Euros between Ukraine and France, where this game lasted for 5 minutes of mostly uneventful play until they stopped because, well,
It is called back.
and 55 minutes of waiting later, they picked up that game right back up, and France would win 2-0 on one of the most soaked playing fields you could ever dream up. And side note, athletes getting scared by lightning might actually be one of the funniest things ever. Somehow, someway, the next stop on our list brings us back to Yankee Stadium, where the weather started to affect the game between the White Sox and the Yankees on June 6, 2023. And if you recall, the Canadian wildfires had spread all throughout both Canada and parts of the United States. These fires were so extreme that the main story coming into the matchup was actually the air quality, and fans and players alike were questioning if the game should even be played that night. Major League Baseball gave both teams the green light to play, and they both powered through during this rather eerie setting. The White Sox would win this smoky meeting, and the next day the sky and air quality seemed like something straight out of a horror movie as orange skies rolled in, and not the picture-perfect sunrise type of orange sky, but rather thick smoke mixed with sunlight made New York look like Netflix's idea of what Mexico is. However, this time Major League Baseball had player and fan safety first and canceled this game as it was beyond obvious that this game could not go on with the air quality being as poor as it was. But again, like most of these events, the pure visuals that the game and scenarios provided was something to behold that day. today, with quick speed run of a few games that I won't go into as in detail, but I'd still like to mention on my list. 1981, the AFC Championship game known as the Freezer Bowl between the Chargers and Bengals, a staggering -9 degrees Fahrenheit and a wind chill that made the air feel like it was -59 degrees. This game is regarded as the coldest NFL game ever. 1967, NFL Championship game known as the Ice Bowl between the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers, a championship game that is -13 degrees Fahrenheit and a wind chill of -48 degrees. Sign me the hell up. The field was genuinely frozen over and players were unable to break or cut during the game. 1989 World Series Game 3 known as the Earthquake Series between the San Francisco Giants and Oakland Athletics. As the teams were warming up in Candlestick Park, an earthquake struck the San Francisco Bay Area, and due to the extreme coincidence that two local teams were playing in the World Series when the earthquake hit, it was the first major earthquake in the US to be broadcast on live TV. And because of this, it kept the loss of life much lower than anticipated, as thousands of people left work early and were off the roads by the time of the 6.9 tremor hit. Still, the earthquake did unfortunately kill 63 people and produced billions of dollars in damage. This series then continued 10 days later, with the A's eventually winning it in 4 straight games. 2008, the World Series Game 5 between the Philadelphia Phillies and Tampa Bay Rays, and rain is nothing new, but this was a bit extreme. The game started on October 27th and it finished on October 29th because of the constant rain and poor playing conditions. Well, that prompted a suspension for 2 whole days. During the World Series, nearly half an inch of rain fell in Philadelphia on the 27th, and nearly an inch more falling the next day, and by the 29th, Major League Baseball deemed that the playing surface was good enough to continue where the game left off in the 6th inning. This remains the only MLB game in World Series history to not be played to completion or declared a tie, and in the end, the Phillies won the game 4-3 and thus won the World Series. Cold weather, snow, wind, smoke, and rain, well, it all affects sports in wacky ways, but what about one of the most obvious ones that I've teetered around mentioning? Well, extreme heat can be a problem. And one of my favorite examples of this comes from a Week 1 NFL game in 2000 between the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. I like this not purely because of the extreme heat.
Welcome back to Texas Stadium, where the air temperature is over 100 degrees, and you heard Pat and John say the field temperature is reaching 200 degrees.
But rather what the Eagles did to give themselves a leg up on the Cowboys this fateful day. The Week 1 game between the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys will be remembered for a variety of reasons. Eagles fans may recall that Andy Reid started the game off with an onside kick, whereas Cowboys fans remember it for a different reason, as newly acquired receiver Joey Galloway, who the team traded 2 first-round picks for, tore his ACL in the opening game that year. The in-stadium temperature climbed to 109 degrees, and the middle of the field was clocked in at a temperature of 130 degrees. The Eagles and Cowboys, because of that heat, were struggling. They were exhausted and on the verge of passing out due to extreme temperatures. But the Eagles trading staff had an ace up their sleeve: pickle juice.
Why? You afraid of pickles?
Players were not only asked but nearly forced to chug away at the juice to help their body stay hydrated, as apparently pickle juice puts Gatorade to shame in terms of helping hydrate the body. This game stays near the top for hottest NFL games ever, and if I recall, is still the hottest game ever played in Texas. Aside from the high heat and record temperatures, the Eagles and their pickle juice absolutely demolished the Cowboys Week 1 by a score of 41-14, and I'll let you be the judge. Was it the talent of the 2000 Eagles, or was it the ability of pickle juice that led to a blowout? That just about does it for me, and please let me know in the comments below what your favorite game from this video is, and as well, tell me if I missed any games that you'd like to see in an eventual part 2. Thank you for watching, and you have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.